From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting, originating from the County Administrative Center located at 1115 Truxtun Avenue, Bakersfield, California. Kern County's vision is to create and maintain a customer-centered county government designed to garner the confidence, support, and trust of the people we serve. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday, April 17 meeting of the Kern County Board of Supervisors. The board will come to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Gleason.
Here.
Supervisor Scrivener.
Here.
Supervisor Maggard.
Here.
Supervisor Couch.
Here.
Supervisor Perez.
We're going to begin our morning with a salute to the flag, and then if you could remain standing for a moment of meditation or pause for a moment of silence, that would be appreciated by us. Mary Gomez, who is retiring after 30 years of service in the Department of Human Services, is going to lead us in the flag salute. You go to the other side, Mrs. Gomez. There you go. Thank you.
Okay, ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Our agenda begins this morning with our consent items. Consent items are considered to be routine by staff and are usually voted on with one vote. If you would like to, you as a member of the public would like to ask a question about a member on consent, I'll come to you in a moment and ask if you'd like to do that. The board will make a motion to proceed with the consent agenda. Board members may pull items if they'd like for separate consideration. So let me go through first what our consent items are this morning, beginning on page 2 of this morning's agenda. Items 2, 4, and 7. On page 3, items 9, 10, and then 12 through 16. On page 4, items 18 through 21. And that's it for this morning's agenda. So are there any members of the public that would like to ask a question about any matter on consent? I don't see anyone. Okay, colleagues, would any of you like to pull an item, or is there a motion to proceed with the consent calendar?
Motion on consent.
Thank you.
Second.
Is there a second? We have a second. Thank you. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. 4 ayes, 1 absent. Supervisor Perez.
Thank you. We have two presentations this morning. The first is item number 1 on page 2 of our agenda. It is a resolution honoring Mary Gomez. Thank you for doing the flag salute, by the way. Mary Gomez, from the Department of Human Services, upon her retirement after 30 years of dedicated service. And Supervisor Couch, I believe, is going to make that presentation.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Please cast your votes. Ms. Gomez,
Motion is approved. 4 ayes, 1 absent. Supervisor Perez.
Thank you. Ms. Gomez, could you meet us at the dais? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my honor today to present this to Mary. Actually, I'm going to say a couple, or read the resolution, and I'm going to turn it over to Cindy Utes, who is our Deputy Director of Department of Human Services. We're honoring Mary Gomez today upon her retirement with 30 years of dedicated service to Kern County. Congratulations very much. So I'll read the resolution. It says, whereas Mary Gomez began her career at Kern County Medical Center in September 1984 as a typist clerk 2. In 1994, she promoted to typist clerk 3 with Kern Family Healthcare and left county employment. And then Ms. Gomez returned to county employment in February 23, 1998 as an extra help word processing technician 2 with the Department of Human Services in Division 10 Cal Works. On July 27, 1998, she secured a permanent position as a receptionist. Ms. Gomez was skilled in handling large volumes of work, preparing a variety of reports, performing multiple tasks simultaneously, and maintaining various records and files. On November 6, 1999, she was promoted to word processing technician, which was later reclassified as office services technician, a position she held until retirement. Ms. Gomez, Her dedication to the Department of Human Services and commitment to serving the public has earned her the respect and the admiration of both her peers and of her colleagues. She'll be greatly missed at the Department of Human Services, and she is wished all the best in her future endeavors. Now, it says, now, therefore, it is resolved that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Kern, State of California, does hereby honor and commend Mary Gomez upon her retirement with 30 years of dedicated service to Kern County. I'm going to present this to you, Mary. It's dated today, April 17th, 2018. It's signed by all the members of the board. Congratulations on a really great, great career. I know you'll be missed. But I'm going to turn it over to Cindy first and let her say a few kind words, I believe, about you.
Great, thank you. Supervisor Couch, Chairman Maggard, and members of the board. So I'm proud to be here today. My name is, again, Cindy Yates, Chief Deputy Director of the Department of Human Services, to recognize Mary after 30 wonderful years at the Department of Human Services, and I know she'll be greatly missed. She is looking forward to traveling and relaxing. I think relaxing came first, and then traveling. She retired on March 16th, I believe it was, from the department, and says she already misses some of the DHS family, but she has her little dog, Leo, that she's excited to be traveling with. And so just want to wish you the best, Mary, in your retirement, and offer you to say a couple words if you'd like.
Good morning.
Kind of high. I just want to had a great 30 years here in the county. And sometimes I say I wish I can come back, but then I say no. Reality.
I hear that goes away
And so,
eventually.
you know, I enjoyed all those years. I met a lot of people and a lot of co-workers, you know, as friends. And it's a big DHS family that I'll miss most of all.
Well, God bless you in your retirement. Enjoy
Thank
your
you.
travels.
Congratulations.
Next, Supervisor Gleason will help us proclaim April 2018 as Great American Cleanup Month in Kern County. Supervisor,
Motion on proclamation.
please cast your votes.
Motion is approved. All ayes.
Morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
What a group, huh? Fantastic. Mayor, nice to have you back.
Good to be here.
Yes, it's an honor to offer this proclamation signed by our esteemed Chairman of the Board, Mr. Maggard, proclaiming the state of California, proclaiming April 2018 as the Great American Cleanup Month in Kern County. As you know, Kern County is a fairly large place, and Keep America Cleanup Month in Kern County does a great job in supporting these types of efforts within Kern County, especially in the Bakersfield area where we have a focus and where we do a great job with this effort. And I'm not going to take too many words to describe this. I'm going to pass it off to our favorite mayor in the Kern County that's not in District 1.
Yeah, you better be careful there.
And off to Karen go. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Supervisor Gleason. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's a privilege to be joined by my colleagues here today. Kevin Barnes with our solid waste team, Heather Pinella, who's a volunteer with Keep Bakersfield Beautiful, the mayor's appointee, and then our chairman of Keep Bakersfield Beautiful board, Bob LaRude, who you all know has a passion for our community. Thank you so much for raising awareness in our community that we all have the opportunity, that we all have the privilege to do something for our community and keep Kern County clean, keep Bakersfield clean, but it's an individual responsibility that together we can join collectively to make a difference in our community. This coming Saturday, we have the opportunity to join together and be a part of a very large group with Keep Bakersfield Beautiful. So we invite the public to join us. Mary If you're not doing anything, come and join us, those of you who are retiring. But again, a reminder that each of us can make a difference. So we'll be out in different parts of our community, then gathering at Yokit's Park for a wonderful barbecue and celebration. But it's not only one day. It's an opportunity that we have every day to make a difference in our neighborhoods, in our community, and thus make an impact much larger. So please come out with us. Thank you again for recognizing the importance of keeping our community, keeping Bakersfield, keeping Kern County clean. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bob didn't break that camera?
No. Mayor Go. Mayor Go. What is the date again of the event?
It's this coming Saturday.
This Saturday.
So by
Yokit's
checking
Park.
the Keep Bakersfield Beautiful website or Facebook, there's all the details there.
Okay, very good.
We'll
Thank
see you there, Supervisor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Supervisor. Next, we offer an opportunity to the public to make comment to us about any matter that is not otherwise on our agenda each time we meet. So are there any members of the public who would like to come forward this morning and make any comment to us about any item not otherwise on our agenda? Yes, sir, please come forward. We give each member of the public 2 minutes to give us a synopsis of what their ideas or concerns are. Could you please give us your name for the record, sir, and proceed?
Good morning, Chairman and Supervisor. My name is Wally Baville.
Could you spell your last name, sir?
It's B as in boy, E, V as in Victor, I-L-L-E.
Baville, very
like
good.
Cadillac, but with a B.
Okay. Good morning. Please proceed.
Yes, like I said, my name is Wally Baville. I'm a retired combat Marine, and I'm also a huge animal advocate here in Kern County. We've got a huge problem with the pet population, specifically with pit bulls and chihuahuas. I know I've spoken to some of the supervisors before, and with the Animal Control Committee, the commission that meets tomorrow night, every other Wednesday, or every last Wednesday of the month, there is a significant conflict of interest, specifically with the District 2's appointee. Janice Anderson is the chairperson for the Animal Control Committee, as well as the anti-legislation chairperson for the AKC, as well as the National Newfoundland Foundation. I feel as if that is a significant conflict of interest because she's anti-legislative for those two national organizations, whereas she is supposed to be approving legislation to bring to you to help our community. The mandatory spay and neuter initiative, I've got a document I printed off the county website. In 2007, okay, mandatory spay and neuter was an option then, okay? It was denied, and I couldn't find the audio recording because they didn't start until 2008. But one of the other committee members did say, this is hearsay obviously, Mrs. Anderson said that she would not pass it because it would affect her business, okay? So with that being said, I would like to see if we could do something about this significant conflict of interest, because if that initiative would have passed, we'd have been reaping the benefits of mandatory spay and neuter for over a decade. And the animals that have been born, abused, and found dead in parts of this community possibly wouldn't have been born, okay? This Keep Bakersfield Clean initiative, I challenge them to go out to South Cottonwood, to Breckenridge, to places like that where you'll find pallets of dead animals, okay? And so, you know, I just want someone to look into it to see if we could change this.
Thank you, Mr. Baville, and thank you for your service to our country. The sacrifices that you made on our behalf, we're grateful for that. Supervisor Scrivener would like to make a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I obviously represent District 2, and Ms. Anderson is my appointee. She's been on that commission before I came on the board. I'm not sure how many years that she served on there, but I would like to ask County Council, Mr. Nations, could we have a County Council look into the concerns over a possible conflict of interest? And you know, there are actual conflicts and there's also perceived conflicts, and so I think that this definitely something that I would like County Council to look into and give a report to the commission. I understand the commission's meeting, according to Mr. Beville, is tomorrow night. I don't know if that will give you enough time, or County Council enough time to do a thorough examination. But at the next opportunity, I'd like to have a report given to the commission, and then we can proceed accordingly depending on what County Council determines. And thank you once, as Supervisor, excuse me, as Chairman Maggard said, Mr. Beville, thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Mr. Nations, can we do that?
Yes, we will do that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Supervisor
you, Mr. Chairman.
Perez, thank you. Supervisor Perez would like to make a brief comment. Mr. Beville.
Thank you, Chairman. Wally, it's good to see you. Thank you for your passion for our four-legged friends. I want you to know that my office has pursued this matter and has spoken to County Council. And so, Mr. Nations, Jerry in your office, our office has communicated with. I don't know that we had reached an answer or a conclusion yet, but that should certainly be a good introduction to the issue regarding this potential conflict, and then, of course, other issues that we discussed when we met. But I appreciate your passion. I like all your Facebook posts that express your righteous indignation about how much more we still need to do. But I want you to know, Wally, your supervisor, Zach Scrivener, District 2, has been a remarkable partner and leader in the world of spay and neuter, and getting us to be no kill by the end of 2020 is still our very ambitious goal. But I want you to know your supervisor cares, and I know he's going to pay every attention to this matter, and we will find resolution. But thank you for pushing. You're the right guy to push, and yeah, I've admired you for a long time.
I really appreciate it. Like I said, the animals have no voice. The only voice that they have is people like myself and like the supervisors up here. And so if we can't help them, who will?
Thank you, Wally.
So thank you again.
Thank you. Is there anybody else this morning that would like to make comment to us about any matter not otherwise on our agenda? Okay, I'm going to close the public comment portion of our meeting and return to the board. Members, do you have any report to make or comment you'd like to make before we proceed? Okay, thank you. Then next we're up with item number 8. Nick Cullen is here, who's our Director of Animal Services, and it's a request to accept an in-kind donation of $21,000 from the Bakersfield Veterinary Hospital. Mr. Cullen, good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Maggard, members of the board. Nick Cullen, your Director of Animal Services. I'm here this morning to request your board approve the receipt of an in-kind donation of veterinary equipment and supplies with an estimated fair market value of $21,000 from Bakersfield Veterinary Hospital, and also to authorize the chairman to sign the letter of appreciation to the donor. Bakersfield Veterinary Hospital has kindly donated veterinary diagnostic equipment and supplies needed to operate the equipment to the Kern County Animal Shelter. This donation will enable the veterinary staff to provide improved diagnoses and treatment to the animals in the care of the shelter, ensure a greater number of adoptions for animals into permanent homes. The animal shelter employees are grateful for the generous donation. A representative from Bakersfield Vet Hospital could not be here this morning. They're obviously busy with their animals that they're seeing on a daily basis, but I did speak with Dr. Takata last night, who's presiding veterinarian at Bakersfield Vet Hospital, and she just expressed her gratitude for what the department is doing and is more than happy to support what we're doing by this donation. And it's really going to allow our department to further bring under one roof the services that we provide to the animals and reduce the amount of outsourcing for procedures that save animals' lives, saves county dollars, and also increases the capacity for care at the shelter. Therefore, we recommend that your board accept the in-kind donation of veterinary equipment and supplies valued at $21,000 and authorize the chairman to sign a letter of appreciation to the Bakersfield Veterinary Hospital. And again, we as a department, as a staff, to the T, could not be more appreciative of Bakersfield Vet Hospital's support of the services that we provide to the animals in the county.
Thank you, Mr. Cullen. We will be happy to send a letter of gratitude, but please express our gratitude to them as well.
I will do so.
Wonderful. Are there any members of the public that would like to make comment about this? Okay, then is there a member of the board that would like to make a motion or comment?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second.
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Scrivener. I'm sure you voted yes.
I
Since you
did.
made
I
the
was pushing the button.
Sorry about that. The motion is approved, all ayes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cullen. Thank you very much. Next is item number 11, which is a presentation from Bill Walker regarding our efforts to combat homelessness in Kern County. Mr. Walker, good morning.
Good morning. Bill Walker, your Kern Behavioral Health and Recovery Services Director. I would like all those that are here to represent homelessness and the homeless community to go ahead and stand with me as I start this presentation.
Good morning.
And what I'm surrounded with, members of the board, Mr. Alsop, is our faith community, our homeless collaborative, our mayor, and several heads and people involved in homeless work. The presentation this morning is in response to Chairman Maggart's request.
Do you want them to stand the whole time?
I'm going to have them stand for probably the first minute or two.
Okay.
They're pretty tough people.
I'm just looking out for you.
Yeah, they're. If any of them come like after me from behind, let me know.
Okay.
I can't see that.
There's like a 90-minute video, we understand, that you're going to play this morning.
They won't stand for that part.
Okay, all right.
This morning's presentation is in response to Chairman Maggart's request for an update on our efforts to address the homelessness. And today, as I've mentioned, we're joined by several members of the Homeless Collaborative, groups, agencies, and the faith community. And given the number of issues that could be addressed and the time constraints, we decided to develop a video. And it is a 7.5-minute video, and they cut it down and cut it down and cut it down because there's so much that you could put in it. After the video will be directed to Mr. Alsop, your CAO, and he'll be able to address questions, or we have some people pre-selected as subject matter experts if you have questions for them. Before we actually go to the video, though, it was interesting the discussion of animals and animal services. And you've heard me once before say about 4 years ago, I was in Ventura waiting for my wife to come out of a store. I had 3 dogs on leashes. And a lady came up to me, looked at me, and wanted to give me money to feed my dogs. And there's a few takeaways from that. One, I'm like, do I look that bad? But what really got me is she started to lecture me about, I don't want you to drink it. I don't want you to take drugs. It's for your dogs. She didn't care about me. She didn't care about whether I lived or died. She cared about my dogs. And we do have more people who come up before you about dogs than people in this realm. In the video, Mr. Markovitz is going to be one of the speakers, and he's behind me. He's an intelligent, active, hardworking person. And what you'll see is his story when he was on the streets, is that, yes, it's substance abuse, yes, it's mental illness, but it's poverty, it's bad decisions, it's people who need help and a hand. And so I'm actually surrounded by the people who do the hard work. I'm going to cue the video, and then afterwards, Mr. Alsop. But I was just taken by the story about the animals, and that if we were as passionate about people as we are about animals, and we're going to pivot and do better and better in this community, and I think you'll see we do many great things, but there's more that we can do. And I'm just very pleased that we're able to offer you this video this morning. Thank you. I don't know who cues that.
You can't group people experiencing homelessness into one category, that it doesn't discriminate. You have the woman who's living in her car because she's fleeing domestic violence. You have the man who lost his job, who made great money but was laid off and just couldn't get back on his feet. You have the person who's battling a substance abuse disorder.
Homelessness is a complex social problem with a variety of economic and social causes, which include poverty, unemployment, lack of affordable housing, behavioral health, or substance use issues, among many other factors.
I know in my heart I had like maybe 2 weeks left, and I just wasn't going to be here anymore. There was just nothing left in me, and without organizations like our Homeless Collaborative, it would be impossible to get off the streets and get back to a level of functionality.
We all tend to talk about the poverty level, but actually 34% of the families in Kern County do not have adequate income to provide for their family's basic needs.
Once you become homeless, it's almost impossible to get out off the streets without help. Each day, you're just trying to survive that one more day. And the next day, it's the same thing. You gotta find food, you gotta find a place to sleep that night without freezing to death, you know. And I slept in the dirt at night, you know, on top of blankets in the dirt, whatever. When it rains, you can't get dry the rest of the winter. When it's hot, super hot, and you have no way out of that. When it's cold, it's super cold.
It was just overwhelming to me to see that people were going to conduct their lives living that way. And so when I had those two experiences, I said, I've got to do something. There's some way I've got to do something.
Homelessness is a growing problem in our community, as it is in many others. In Kern County, individuals and agencies have been brought together to target this issue through the Kern County Homeless Collaborative.
We had our first meeting and there must have been over 50 representatives there in that room. And we started from that initial conversation, and that built us into formulation of the Kern County Homeless Collaborative.
This collaborative promotes a community-wide commitment to reducing homelessness, as well as streamlining efforts by nonprofit providers and local governments to quickly rehouse individuals and families while minimizing the trauma and other issues caused by homelessness.
When you're dealing with homelessness, collaboration is much needed to tackle the problem. It's not just one agency doing the work, but it's many agencies. The faith community, the government community, business community, to make an impact one life at a time. But we need everybody to be engaged in something like this to really make a difference.
A 10-year plan was established to guide the collaborative on its mission to put an end to homelessness in Kern County. This plan established 3 objectives for success, focusing on homeless prevention, housing stability, and housing development. The collaborative has been able to address these objectives by developing a homeless management system and coordinated entry and assessment system to track the numbers of people at risk and evaluate the effectiveness of the community's response.
Coordinated entry systems develop a coordinated response to homelessness. So no longer is it first come, first serve for the people who are experiencing homelessness. It's not about who they know or where they know to go to receive services. It's about responding to homelessness based on the person's vulnerability and the best resource to resolve their issue.
I think we have worked really hard at getting people into housing and working together. I think that we have really put effort into getting a by name list together and being able to get everybody that we come in contact with into a single database, a single list, so that we can then provide services.
Full implementation is scheduled for May 2018. At-risk veterans now have access to prevention resources through the California Veterans Assistance Foundation.
We've been fortunate to make a significant dent in the homeless population. We've housed, since 2010, over 1,500 persons have been provided housing. They're in permanent supportive housing now, whereas they were on the street or in the shelter.
The collaborative has also worked towards providing housing stability by using a housing-first approach. They formally adopted this approach in 2008 and have placed several hundred homeless people into housing since. The Housing First approach emphasizes placing people directly into affordable housing without preconditions. Not only has this approach been successful in ending and preventing homelessness, it has also resulted in significant decreases in the use of emergency medical and law enforcement services. A recent cost-benefit analysis found significant savings to the community through utilization of this Housing First model. Bottom line, it's more cost-effective to house the homeless than to leave them on the streets or in shelters. The number of permanent housing beds for homeless persons and families increased from 726 in 2010 to 1,933 in 2017. The original 10-year plan, set to sunset in May of 2018, is currently being revised to carry us into the future. The next 10 years will again be focused on homelessness prevention, housing availability, and housing development, with an additional focus on emergency and transitional housing, the implementation of a coordinated entry system, and building community support.
The issues of homelessness are very complex, and the solutions do not have one size that fit all. I see outreach as being an essential component to moving people towards the help that they need.
What we do on outreach is we try to contact those who are homeless in the community. We reach a lot of people and want to build that relationship and that trust with each individual so that it's easier to work with them. It takes about 17 contacts with an individual to engage them in services.
The coordinated entry system ensures that at-risk people are connected to appropriate services. It is a critical component for the Kern County Homeless Collaborative and other agencies to receive funding from federal and state sources. Future prevention efforts will focus on increasing access to employment through programs such as the Bakersfield Homeless Center's job programs. We intend to improve stability by increasing access to supplemental security income and SOAR technical assistance. Increasing permanent supportive housing will focus on additional resources to address homelessness in rural areas. Through Housing First programs like No Place Like Home, additional permanent supportive housing units will be created for persons living with a severe mental illness who are chronically homeless or at risk of chronic homelessness. Of course, none of these initiatives move forward without a wide network of support. The Built for Zero campaign provides assistance for directional and collaborative change.
essentially technical support and coaching for communities. So as a community, we identify what our needs are, what our gaps are, and we have coaches through the Built for Zero campaign that help walk us through the systematic changes we need to make to achieve our goals.
The Kern County Collaborative recognizes that the population is anything but static and will work tirelessly to increase resources and seek opportunities for change.
People are resilient and people do want more for their lives, and we need to be able to have the capacity to give them that, to house them, to support them, to give them that intense case management that they need to get back on their feet to integrate back into society.
Mr. Alsop, I believe that Mr. Walker was referring it to you after the video.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Walker, thanks for the opportunity. I don't have a whole lot to say other than just I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you and your staff, Mr. Walker. I know you've been engaged in this issue in the collaborative for a long time, and all of the members of the collaborative going forward, as the video pointed out, to make a difference. And that's it. Thank you. Great video.
Thank you. Supervisor Perez, would you like to make comment before we go to the public?
Oh, I can wait after the public.
Okay.
Chairman.
Would any members of the public like to make comment to us this morning about the report that we received? Thank you. Then Supervisor Perez.
Thank you. You know, according to the League of California Cities, 1 in 4 homeless people in America live in California. So we house 1/4 of the nation's homeless population. And the issue, as you know, has become an epidemic in the state of California. Federal judges stepping in Orange County and other places to demand action by local government when there is clearly such a burgeoning population of homeless people, and beyond the traditional norms of how we have come to see homeless people. I find that disgraceful as a general principle. However, it's remarkable to think of how broad the scope of people is that is being affected by the housing costs in California. We are, of course, the Golden State, 6th largest economy in the world, and 21 of the 30 most expensive housing markets in America are right here in California. 21 of the 30 most expensive. We're lucky in Bakersfield we have a better balance in housing, but in most parts of the state, this epidemic is becoming unmanageable, uncontrollable, and an actual and true crisis. CSAC, of which I'm president of this year, is requesting very aggressively $1.2 billion from the governor. We do have a surplus, as you know, several billions, but this is an issue that we cannot afford to ignore. And the variation in the population is so vast. It is truly, truly remarkable. Louis Gill, one of my heroes, has taught me that. And as our mayor indicated in the video, the issues are remarkably complex. They are not easy to parse out, and certainly we don't have the answers as individuals. But what I have seen occur at the Veteran Stand Down and other wraparound operations that take very seriously our duty and obligation to care for our veterans on the homeless front, on all wraparound services conceivable, including a Veterans Court, Wally, that we've talked about extensively as part of the treatment process for combat veterans, and truly, truly bringing them home in a way that shows we have the capacity and we have the compassion to do what's right, do what's smart, and do what's economically feasible. So I'm excited, you know, Mr. Turnipseed of the Taxpayers Association, with his broad network of contacts in this community. We are working together to hopefully launch a Baker Street renovation, utilizing the employment, talents, assets, and skills that we know exist at our homeless shelter, but can be better utilized through the kind of collaboration that we see today to really revitalize economically an area with the incredible, precious assets that we know exist there. And of course, direct people that we know are in great need of a lot of help and can do so much better at reaching their potential when we actually work together. So hats off to this group. I've been watching you for a long time, and Mr. Pels, your creativity, your authenticity, and professionalism in this is truly remarkable. So thank you for what you do. We are pushing hard on the governor and the legislature this year for a real package. We can't just throw money at the problem, as you know. We've got to have this kind of collaboration, or those are wasted tax dollars. And we have to reform the entire system, the regulatory structure for affordable housing, the whole nine, to make sure we are properly caring for and providing services and pathways to every single member of this community. So really, heartfelt thank you to you, Louis, my hero. Thank you.
I want to thank the collaborative for their efforts, and there's no lack of sincerity amongst those of you that are in the room today and all those that you represent. But I am interested in how we can move forward more effectively and how we can improve the plight that so many people are in. One of the things that I'm struck with is I've learned through Garden Pathways and their outreach that they've done for me in Oildale that it does take, I think the video referenced 17 touches before somebody engages with the help that we're trying to offer them. And that's no small effort. Think of how long we have to sustain that. So one of my concerns is that as we go forward is that we find a way to take our services out of the buildings, out of the brick and mortar locations that they're often delivered onto the streets and into the places that I hope we can find that will help us take people into some form of housing. We can deliver those services on site, 24-hour day, monitoring there as we try to make sure that those people that are the most imperiled have a constant source of what those resources are. So thank you very much. Look forward to what is going to follow and this re-energized effort that we're going to have. Do any other members of the board wish to make comment before we proceed to receive and file the report? Is there a motion then to receive and file and thank them for their efforts? We have a motion, and do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Please cast your votes.
Thank you. Motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you all very much. Next is item number 17, which is a request to approve unanticipated revenue from fire prevention fees for fire cost reimbursements. Our chief of our Kern County Fire Department, Brian Marshall, is here for us this morning. Chief, could you proceed?
Chairman Maggard, members of the board, I'm joined by Steve Long, my Administrative Service Officer. As you stated, this request is to appropriate unanticipated revenue from fire prevention fees and our fire cost reimbursement. This comes from our state and federal wildland agencies when we assist them on fighting wildfires, not only out of county, but right here in Kern County. The fiscal impact is $11,950,000. So fire prevention, that's the #1 priority of the Kern County Fire Department. Our fire prevention inspectors have been out there. A lot of work going on, both in just general fire inspections and then building permits and residential fire sprinklers. Just to give you some comparison of where we were in March of 2017 to March of 2018, our fire prevention inspections went from 89 to 121 in March. Other inspections completed by our Fire Prevention Bureau went from 185 inspections in March of 2017 to 285. And residential fire permits in March of 2017, there were 44. And this March, 78. So that workload is growing, and we're exceeding revenue estimates by approximately $450,000. The big piece is our fire cost reimbursements. Kern County firefighters are on the front line here in Kern County fighting wildland fires, and when we operate on state and federal lands, we are reimbursed plus a 10% administration fee. And then as we assist all over the western United States, and including a response this year to Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, where we sent firefighters, all of that is reimbursed either through FEMA, California OES, State of California CAL FIRE, or the U.S. Forest Service, or BLM. We respond to these fires. We work on the fire lines. We work in fire camp. We support the incident with incident management teams, logistics folks, and all of this is billed to those agencies, and the money comes back into our budget. Most of this money has already been paid to our firefighters as they're out on the front lines. They turn in their time card every shift, and then that's paid. So we've already paid our firefighters. This money's coming back to reimburse us for all of that we've already paid out. We do bill for fire apparatus also. Our fire engines, we bill $93 an hour. Our helicopters, bulldozers, all of those assets are billed and come back to the Kern County Fire Department. The rates that are set for this are done on a standard methodology. We just plug in our salary and benefit cost, and all the fire departments are using this. We send a rate sheet every July 1st to California OES, and that establishes our rate. So all of that is set basically before fire season. And staff is hard at work right now working on developing the rates for the upcoming year, again, based on salary and benefit, special pays and everything. And that establishes our rate for personnel. And then the fire apparatus, helicopter, and bulldozers, that pretty much is already established. So we've been out fighting fires, a lot of bills going out. Just to give you some sort of synopsis of our billings, Bureau of Land Management, we've received most of the bills from fires that occurred during last summer's fire season. That actually went into January, and then the January floods. There's only a little over $6,000 owed from the Bureau of Land Management. Our contract payments for the California Department of Forestry, CAL FIRE, they were up to date for our February billing, and I just got off the phone with contracts, and the March payment's been sent. So we're operating in April. They've received all of our bills, and at the first of the month for May and June, they'll be paying. The CAL FIRE is our biggest bills. We have, let me get the number here real quick, 89 bills for service to CAL FIRE this year. The average bill is nearly $59,000. That's, again, fires here in Kern County and throughout California as we assist operating under our CAL FIRE contract. CAL FIRE has been slow to pay. We've been hounding them. We've been on the phone, emails, in-person meetings, and basically what's happening is they have a cash flow problem also. There's so many fires occurring in California, and just to put it into context, during the last fire siege of 2007, CAL FIRE expended approximately $500 million out of their E-fund to fight those fires in 2007. They are approaching $1 billion for this last summer's fire siege. It's absolutely incredible. I think if you talk to veteran firefighters, they've never seen anything like this. The amount of homes, the people killed, and then the subsequent flooding that occurred in Santa Barbara. As the fire was actually still burning, rain was coming into Santa Barbara in the floods. We responded to that event also, and we're billing for that. So it's just not fires, it's the hurricanes and it's flood events. Cal OES is a large part of our fire cost reimbursements. 95 bills have been sent to California OES. They've been paying fairly steady. The big part of this is for the FMAG fires. FMAG fires required to be billed within 180 days. It goes to FEMA. That's that 75% payback. We receive FMAGs here in Kern County. The Erskine fire, the Deer fire, those fires were FMAG fires. They go to the top of the list to be billed. And that's just the federal rules. There's time frames. So when you have an FMAG fire, The fire's completed, we submit our bill, it goes to the top of our list, our billing staff puts it together, and it's sent off. And again, it's coming from the federal to the state to the local governments. So Cal OES, that's a big part of it. A lot of our bills are sent through Cal OES because local government, when we're operating not under our Cal Fire contract, we're operating as the Kern County Fire Department. We're requested through California OES. And they actually do the billings, send us an amount to bill, and then we submit the bill. We also work for the Angeles National Forest down in Southern California, and we had one bill that's been submitted recently for a fire that occurred late last year. We also bill the U.S. Forest Service Los Padres National Forest, and they're current on their bill. And just an example, from the date billed, we received, it took 27 days to bill that. So some of these fires, they get billed out fairly quickly. The more complex fire, like the Thomas fire, that takes a long time to put all of the bills together. It's fire trucks, it's personnel, it's equipment. And if we have damaged equipment on the fire that we can't replace, we're actually billing for that also. Travel expenses, if we send our firefighters up towards the Oregon border to assist CAL FIRE or the U.S. Forest Service, obviously they have to stop and eat on the way. The battalion chief pays for it on his credit card, and then we bill plus a 10% administration fee. The last big piece of this is the Sequoia National Forest. A lot of fires that occur on the Sequoia, Kern County Fire Department's either responding initially for those fires that occur in Kern County, or such as the Pier Fire that occurred in Tulare County. So we're an example, the Pier Fire, and that's one that's well known. That fire occurred at the end of August of last year. $366,000 were billed to the Sequoia National Forest. That bill was submitted on the 31st of January. We haven't received payment on that. So a lot of fires out there, very complex billing situations. Again, CAL FIRE is the biggest piece of this. We have been hounding them, phone calls, emails, in-person meetings, trying to get our payments. CAL FIRE staff is working weekends now to process all of these payments. A lot of Kern County invoices, because I've been hounding them, my financial staff has been hounding them, they've been processed and then sent to the state for payment. So they understand our cash flow problem. Again, we're going to continue to hound them to get this money in, and they're working on it. Again, we'd like to get all this money in soon because we're just about ready to go back into fire season. But our staff, my staff, they're working on it diligently to bill the fires. A few years ago, your board authorized an additional fiscal person for the Kern County Fire Department. That person has billed nearly all the fires that occurred last year. There's just a few fires left to bill. These are the OES fires. They're real small. But all of the bills basically from July 1st at the start to right now, they've all been sent out. It's just a matter of getting the money back into the Kern County Fire Department. That concludes my presentation. Therefore, it's recommended your board approve the appropriation of unanticipated revenue in the amount of $11,950,000 and authorize the auditor controller to process the budgetary adjustments and accounting transactions. And I'm available to answer any questions your board may have.
Thank you, Chief. Do any members of the board have a question before we go to the public? Are there any members of the public that would like to make comment or ask questions about the Chief's report? Okay, let's return to the board then. Supervisor Perez.
Thank you. Chief, I've been following the story of the firefighter in Fresno whose wife passed away after giving birth to twins. I've seen those photos, and they are more than heartbreaking. They're gut-wrenching. And the thought that their one living parent is willingly heading out to the community to protect others' property and life is truly remarkable, really. So our deepest condolences for your brother in Fresno, and really a deep appreciation for what you do and the cost to your families. And thank you for the report. Appreciate it.
Chief, I have a couple questions for you about the process that we're involved in and what improvements might be able to be made. So what is approximately the lag time between when our resources and precious fire personnel are deployed to a fire? What's the lag time between when that happens and when we bill for their services?
Chairman Maggard and members of the board, again, it varies. We start billing as fires start occurring. We actually have had a couple small fires here in Kern County that were not billable. They were initial attack fires. The complexity of the fire, the amount of time, if you remember back to the Sobranos fire, that fire burned for over 3 months. So as we rotate our personnel, usually 14 days is a minimum assignment, often 21, and then due to the extraordinary circumstances we face, they're on the front lines for 30 days before we bring them back. So as they come back, all the paperwork is completed, put together in a billing package. Supplies, again, if we have damaged fire hose, that's replaced. All these bills are put together. But then we'll have an FMAG fire, and it's going to go to the top of the list. The Sobranos was an FMAG fire, so that's going to go to the top of the list. So we bill out a sequence to meet billing deadlines. So it's widely varied. Again, our CAL fire, which is probably our biggest piece of it, the average time to bill was 147 days from the completion of the incident to submitting the bill. But it varies depending on the time of the bill, or the complexity of the fire and the contractual arrangements. Generally, we have 180 days to bill a CAL fire. That's in our contract, and we try to meet those, and generally we're meeting that 100-day billing cycle.
So is that, you said that we gave you an extra person to be able to help with that. Has the process improved? Is the lag time between when services are rendered and when we submit the bill any better after we gave you a person?
Chairman Maggard, definitely, 100%. Our financial staff, prior to this extra person, they're not only doing these bills, but they're paying the bills, the utility bills for the fire stations, all of the bills that a large department would have, and trying to get the fire bills. This person that your board gave us, strictly dedicated towards processing, billing, following up, getting the money. So much appreciated. It's worked tremendously better now than it was in the past.
In business, because the cash flow that's at risk is the business owners and the employees that are there won't have a job if they can't make payroll at the end of the month. So in business, they progress bill. If we're on a, what did you say, a 90-day fire somewhere, or however long that was you said, payrolls every 2 weeks. So in business, you have to bill as you go along. Do we have the ability to progress bill during the midst of it, or are we required by the rules to wait till the end?
Chairman Maggard, members of the board, were required to wait till the end, and you have to understand that the complexity of the fire, as it burns over several different landowners, federal, state, even Indian tribal land. At the end of the fire, or actually through the process, but actually at the end of the fire, primarily U.S. Forest Service and CAL FIRE, Cal OES all come together and they do some sort of cost share agreement. It may be something as simple as the acres burned. If the fire's 200 acres and 100 acres are on the Forest Service, 100 acres are on CAL FIRE, they'll split the cost of the fire 50-50. I wish it was that easy, but fires such as our Erskine fire started on BLM, burned on state land, burned on U.S. Forest Service land, highly complex fire. So there is teams of what we call our cost apportionment teams, where these financial folks go in, they go over all the bills. So you can just imagine our air tankers that are dropping on fires, not Kern County Fire Departments, but Forest Service or state air tankers. Each airdrop is documented where it was and who's paying for that. So there's a complex process that goes through to actually figure out the bill so we can submit. So we're unable to submit progress payments as you stated. We have to wait to the end, then we submit the bill. Sometimes there's some discrepancies or more documentation's required, so some back and forth, and then the final bill submitted, and we're sitting here waiting for payment.
Are there any other jurisdictions that are better at this than we are? Do they bill faster? Do they get paid faster? Are there lessons we can learn from someone else about how to get this done more quickly?
Chairman Maggard, I think to answer your question, a lot depends on your participation in the system. Obviously, the Kern County Fire Department is a wildland fire organization. You've seen us in action here in Kern County. Smaller jurisdictions that only send one fire engine out to assist, the bill is much less easier to process. Our bills are very complicated because they include personnel, they include fire engines, and that's different types of fire engines. It includes bulldozers, hand crews, helicopters, and especially with aviation assets, that's a very complex bill because we're billing for time on the ground, time for flying, all of that. So the Kern County Fire Department's bills, and you look at other local governments such as Los Angeles County, Ventura, Santa Barbara, Orange County, those contract counties that participate in the CAL FIRE system, we're all facing the same issues. Bills are complex, there's more bills, more resources, it's taking longer to pay. I don't know what I could do better. We're getting the bills out there. It's becoming a problem getting the money back.
So let's talk about that for just a second, then we'll go to Supervisor Gleason. About how long does it take to get paid again? And I know it depends on the jurisdiction you said, but what opportunities are there to improve that process to get paid quicker?
Chairman Maggard, one of the things that is now happening, and we've used grant funding, is putting computers in fire trucks. That allows us to track better as opposed to using paper forms. We're out there, we're submitting the bills as fast as we can get them. One of the challenges that we also have is the fires are just continually coming, and firefighters are going from fire to fire to fire. That makes it even more complex because if they go to 2 or 3 fires, then we end up having to process 2 or 3 bills over 14 to 21 days of their assignment. This fire season, again, extraordinary. It makes it it's just more taxing, more difficult, not only on our firefighters, our fire equipment, everything, but we're trying everything possible to get the paperwork in a timely manner. We have a process, how it all works. We have a secretary who bundles all of the paperwork to deliver it to finance. That way the package is ready to go for our billing staff. So we're doing everything. I don't know what we could do better.
Thank you, Chief. Supervisor Gleason.
Thanks, Chairman. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it. I don't think your job's getting easier. I think your job's going in a direction that very more, I agree with you, it's complex, and I think our fire department is responding brilliantly to what their tasks are. And I think it's a changing world, and we have a shrinking budget, and the two don't match. So let's talk about how we can
solve this problem because we don't want to get into a place where we've been previously with another branch of our organization. We just don't want to go there, so let's snub it here as quickly as we can. You said, I think you said, that from the time of completion of a task to when you send the bill out, you're averaging 147 days.
Supervisor Gleason, through the chair, that's CAL FIRE, 147 days on average to process a bill and submit it for payment.
And that's our largest bill, right, CAL FIRE?
CAL FIRE, our bill currently is almost 8.7 million.
And how long after that 147 days after you send the bill do you get a check in the mail? Do you get paid? About?
If you'll indulge me just a moment, let me look where we're at with this. CAL FIRE has been slow to pay, so right now for fires that were occurring in early summer, we have not received payment for.
So early summer of last year.
That's correct.
So it's June?
Starting July 1st.
Okay, July 1st.
Correct.
Let's say July 1st.
Right.
To now, we haven't been paid?
For a lot of our bills, Supervisor Gleason, that is correct. CAL FIRE is, they're not paying.
Okay, so the gap funding to get us through that period of waiting payment comes from where? What source of funds? Your budget? Reserve budget?
Supervisor Gleason, through the chair, that would be a source of funds from the general fund to assist us with our cash flow issue.
So let me just, without trying to be snide, our general fund is compensating CAL FIRE and their inability to pay their bills from that 147-day window to when they finally pay the bill.
Supervisor Gleason, that's exactly correct.
Okay, so there's a problem obviously with CAL FIRE and how they do business. Why doesn't CAL FIRE just stop that and hire more firefighters and expand their business? Why are they depending upon a mutual aid relationship with counties? Why don't they grow their fire departments so they don't have to worry about that 10% overcost and that time lag in funding?
Supervisor Gleason, through the chair, how California operates in this, and actually the Western United States, is a philosophy is nobody stands alone. When we have these large fires, jurisdictions still have to provide protection to the home front. During the deer fire that occurred in Supervisor Scrivener's area, shortly after the Erskine fire, we had fire engines from the San Francisco City Fire Department on our front lines. So it's everybody helping everybody. California has the most robust mutual aid system, and it's just not for wildland fires. It's for floods, earthquakes, or any other emergency. We're helping everybody. So the system relies on everybody working together.
Right. I hear you. I appreciate what you're saying. I'm saying that that's not the most efficient system that we could possibly design to put out fires throughout California. Why do we send crews to the Oregon border to put out a fire? Why does Kern County send a crew from, did San Francisco send a crew to that fire? Did Orange County? Did Riverside County? Did San Diego County? Why us?
Supervisor Gleason, the contract counties, which are, including Kern, are, we are CAL FIRE here in Kern County. So CAL FIRE pays us to provide protections to the state land. That's our CAL FIRE Gray Book contract. You're correct, we wouldn't have to respond to the Oregon border and fight fires. That is a correct statement. We could decline those orders. But again, we all participate in this system. So it may come to a point where if we don't receive our payments that we can't continue this. This is a challenge. This is very disconcerting for me that payments aren't being made in a timely manner, because it does affect us here in Kern County.
Thanks, Chief. And this isn't a slight against you or the level of participation that you commit to a structure that has been designed before your time that you participate in. So I appreciate you do that. Right. When the Erskine fire happened, what's the northernmost county in California? Anybody know? Anybody have an idea? Give me something north of Humboldt County. Is that way up there? Did Humboldt County respond to Erskine fire?
As far as resources, I'm trying to remember Forest Service resources were coming in from all over the western United States to help us. The local government fire departments, some local government fire departments are protected by CAL FIRE. So Riverside County is actually CAL FIRE. So it's Riverside County, but it's CAL FIRE coming to help. I remember seeing engines from Santa Clara County in our.
I do too.
In the
I remember all different colored trucks. They were all up there. Everybody was, well, not, we got to be careful how we say that, because everybody wasn't participating, but there were others that were helping us out, and I'm sincerely appreciative. I just think that the system is designed so that people say everybody goes to everywhere and we all share, and it's not true. I mean, there are select organizations that participate, but how they are selected is impacting our budget. And I want to know how that is happening. For example, when we send a crew up to this Oregon fire, we backfill in behind them, don't we?
Supervisor Gleason, through the chair, if it's like a hand crew, then no, we wouldn't backfill. We have 3 crews. We don't send all 3 crews to the Oregon border. We always keep protection here. An engine strike team, which would be 5 engines plus a leader, we would send them to a fire, and then we would backfill the stations, and then we're reimbursed for that cost plus the 10% administrative fee.
So we're backfilled for the cost of sending the fire engine. If we send a full crew to wherever, we pay that cost, we get reimbursed that plus 10% if it's an FMAG, is that correct?
No, all billings are reimbursed plus 10%. The FMAG component is the federal government's paying 75% of the cost.
Got it. Okay, so we send a crew, we get reimbursed for that, we backfill that fire station that they came from, we pay those costs for that. Do we get reimbursed for those backfill costs?
Yes.
Plus 10%?
Yes.
And, okay. Have we ever declined to send trucks or crews to fires elsewhere? Do we send fire crews outside the state of California?
Supervisor Gleason, our interagency hotshot crew out of Lake Isabella is a United States resource, so they would be responding anywhere on the forest that needs a Type 1 crew. We did send incident management folks to Hurricane Maria, or they could be in Oregon, Washington, Montana, wherever fires are occurring. That's a select group of fires. And to answer your question, do I ever say no? Yes, I do say no. We have to protect the home front first. So actually, when the Thomas fire was first starting, Ventura County was asking for resources, but we faced red flag conditions here, and so we were very select on what we were sending, because the Thomas fire could have occurred in our own backyard. So yes,
okay,
I say no.
Thank you, appreciate that, Chief. So you use your judgment to say no when you need to, based on resource availability or threats to the home front, or threats to the home front. If you have a greater need for your resources here, you don't send them.
Supervisor Gleason, through the chair, we only have so many fire engines.
Right.
We only have so many personnel.
We only have so much general fund also.
Correct. So we make a decision.
Do you ever make a decision, Chief, based on a lack of funding?
No, I make a decision based on the need to protect Kern County first and the ability to supply what's requested. I'm not going to send all my bulldozers to a fire out of Kern County. I have to keep resources here. The number of folks that are staffing fire stations available to staff fire stations, we only have so many firefighters, so that plays a big part in it. So we do say no a lot.
I think you do a great job as fire chief, and I'm grilling you on this, but I think it's that's my job. We need to protect our general fund, and it seems like it's under threat because of a lack of understanding of some members of the fire department, understanding the general fund, and also I just want to. I need to understand how you make that decision. Does your judgment on that, whether you send trucks or not, is that comparable with all fire chiefs in the counties of California, or do they use the same decision matrix that you use, or do you use different ones than they use?
I would say the like fire departments are making the same judgment calls.
How many like fire departments are there in California? Similar fire departments to Kern County?
Well, I would say the most equal departments are those contract counties: Los Angeles, Orange, Ventura, Santa Barbara, and Marin. We operate the same way. We are CAL FIRE in our particular counties, and the fire chiefs, we all get together. We're all making those decisions. If there are fires in their jurisdiction, they're not sending resources out. And an example of that is when the Thomas fire was initially starting, there were fires in Southern California, in LA County, LA City, and LA County actually had to get their resources back because LA County was burning. So there are times where we even get our resources back based on the need here in Kern County.
How much money, I'm bouncing around a little bit, Chief, but I got a question. This question is, how much money do we have that is in float? We're floating now. How much money resources have we allocated and spent, and that we have not received payment from for either the state or whomever?
Supervisor Gleason, through the chair, somewhere between 8.5 and 9 million.
Wow. Okay, Chief, I appreciate what you do. I think your job is getting infinitely more complex because I think we're in a drought and fire seasons are expanding rather than shrinking, and the fire threat is more real today than it has in the past. And I appreciate you being at the head of the fire department, and I'm looking forward to finding ways to. My focus is going to be on restricting and reducing the threat to our general fund, because we have a bunch of other departments that are also in similar stress and that need to be managed accordingly.
Supervisor Gleason, through the chair, I'll continue to work with our CAO and the board, and maybe we can send letters and explain our position. We've never seen anything like this before, both the fires and the billings, and it has been an extreme challenge. So I'll work with the CAO's office, get with Mr. Alsop, and we'll see if we can work a strategy out, because any help I can get.
So I think you're doing a good job at your level. I'm just not sure we're doing a good job at our level. I'd like to have a better understanding. So I'm hearing you say is we got $8.5 million loan out to a bunch of various organizations. Do we charge interest on that loan? No. Probably not. I mean, that's just money that's not real. It's just in between transactions. And I need to put, is it reasonable for us to put pressure on the people who are lagging in their payments to us so that we don't have a threat to our general fund? How do we go about doing that? Mr. Alsop, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I have several thoughts I was going to, would you like me to just sort of?
Go for it.
Okay. I was going to try and add to the discussion here. I think this is a good discussion to have in public. And my job is to support the chief and to try and make the fire department and all of the firefighters successful in protecting our community. And that's sort of how we view our role. That said, I want to highlight a couple of things. What we're talking about today is a cash flow problem specifically. And the cash flow problem is separate from the budget problem. This item is taken off consent today because the chief thought it was important to point out that receiving $12 million, even though it says unanticipated revenue, doesn't mean that we've run into a windfall of $12 million, and we should take our, we should give up on what we're trying to achieve in terms of some budget savings with fire. The fact of the matter is this money has been spent. So your Kern County Fire Department sends our firefighters all over the place in the western United States. The chief outlined, I think, well, why we do that. I can assure you that all of the places we send them are grateful that Kern County shows up. Our helicopters, our trucks, our men and women firefighters, we send them out. And we pay for all that out of our general fund, out of other funds that the fire department gets. All of that's paid for up front. Overtime, regular time, everything. Meals, everything is paid up front by Kern County taxpayers. And then as we're drilling down on this, on average 172, but 200, 300, and in some cases with CAL FIRE, 400 plus days later, we get paid back. What that's resulting in, given the complexities that have been outlined by the chief, wherever they exist, whether it's here or there, it's a combination probably, we have a cash flow problem. Next week, your board will consider loaning from the general fund reserves to the fire department $14 million to make ends meet so that the fire department can pay bills, so that firefighters can get paid. That is a direct result of what we've just discussed here and the lag in payment and the result of sending, having a fire department that we send out all over the place, given the mutual aid agreements that we have. So that's that. The loan and today's discussion about $12 million that we're finally getting from the state, and is it all state or feds, or is it a combination, Chief? Combination.
It's a combination.
Combination.
Of federal and state reimbursements.
Yeah, so that's the cash flow. The budget, that has no impact on the fire fund budget. And again, I'll touch base on that quickly. We are projecting a $10 million structural budget deficit in the fire fund. We believe that number will change slightly going into the summer, but that is our projection today, and we're sticking with how we do these projections because they work. We've been fairly accurate. That will change somewhat, but that projection is $1.5 million more than it was last year. So we're sort of going in the opposite direction. Just to reiterate, given some of the statements made in social media and other places by folks, the fire department has received 0 forced cuts. We have cut them $0, not a penny, out of the general fund, while all other departments receive cuts. We have cut them 0. All fire positions, all fire stations are fully funded. Fully funded. All positions fully funded. We are not saying no to any position the chief wants to fill. So that I wanted to point out how your board demonstrates its support, which is extraordinary, I believe, for our fire department and our firefighters. So it's a budget problem that we need to drill down on, and if we don't, this is not going to be solved. We're projecting deficits for the next 5 years if all things stay the same. But those are my comments today, and you know, all of this should give us some concern, and we should be doing everything we can to empower the chief to lead the department and to address some of these issues. On your issue about advocacy, I believe this board can make a strong statement. We could back the chief. We could send letters to the governor, our state legislative delegation, CAL FIRE, all the organizations insisting that we be paid back in a more timely manner. You know, we can follow that up with other actions, but I think you should be vocal. I think that's well within your right to be.
Thank you, Mr. Alsop. I'm very interested in following up on that advocacy for the chief and supporting him in what he's doing. And if a letter to the governor is required to let him know, inform him of our peril, then I'd be all supportive of that personally. I also heard you say that we are fully funding the fire department, and yet we're carrying an increasing structural deficit.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Gleason, yes. That's what I said.
I'm looking forward to having the conversation about and a better understanding of that in the days, weeks, and months to come. Chief, I've said it 3 times, I'll say it a 4th time. Your job is very complex. I appreciate you getting this information out to the public and to this board as quickly as you can. I'm looking forward to continued communication flow between you and the public and this board. And I'd like to be ahead of these issues so that we can make the most informed and best decisions possible. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Scrivener.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. First of all, I wanted to go on record to say that I support our mutual aid policies where we are responding to other areas of the state, even other areas of the country, if we are called and needed. I think that there are obviously benefits because it is mutual, meaning when we need help, we get help. And when help is needed from us, we provide it. And I think that helps the entire system in California operate effectively because you have incidents that one department can't handle on their own, or at least handle as well as they can when they get assistance. And so I think that if we had a policy where we didn't help, we would have to have a lot more resources on hand to be able to handle our own problems. Would you agree with that, Chief?
Supervisor Scrivener, through the chair, that is correct.
Also, the training that our men and women in the fire department receive, that experience that they gain when they go out on these incidents, help us here at home. People want the Kern County Fire Department to help them because they know we're among the best. Some of us may think we are the best. I'm kind of biased in that direction. But the fact of the matter is that the payment does take too long, and so I'm in full support of us advocating for a more timely repayment by the state and the feds, and so I'd like us to explore that. But in regards to the budget, this is a lot like Kern Medical, and I think Supervisor Gleason was alluding to this, where you're waiting for reimbursement, and so loans need to be fronted from the general fund in order to keep the doors open, and then we get the reimbursement later. But what ideally we should have in the fire department, and what I think that we're now building towards in Kern Medical, is to have reserves on hand where the department itself can carry that amount. But in the face of the budget situation we're in, every single bit of reserve money has been used in the fire department, at least my understanding, to keep the stations fully staffed, to keep the lights on, the doors open. We don't have the reserves we need to replace equipment. We're deferring a lot of that equipment replacement, and so that's a situation that we're in right now, and that must be rectified. And when we go into the next budget discussion, we're going to have to chart a course to get the fire department to be able to stand on its own revenue stream, which is the fire fund, and rather than having the general fund continue to put money in. And so, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was just briefly some of my thoughts on the subject. And Chief, thank you very much for the report.
Thank you, colleagues. Chief, there's opportunity for us to correct a misperception that has been promoted by some in our community with regard to whether or not we will have hand crews available for this upcoming fire season. Can you address that this perception among some that we would not have those crews available. Will we have those fire crews available?
Chairman Maggard, members of the board, we will have fire crews.
And there was some issue about the source of funding we've used in the past. The definition of how that funding could be used changed. That just means we have to find a different way to pay for it. Is that correct?
That's correct, Chairman Maggard. Because of the drought that's occurred over the last several years, there's drought funding for wildland firefighters in the project work that they could do. The drought basically went away, and it is now flood funding, and that caused a pause. We're in the process of hiring our crews in the spring, late winter, early spring. They're out there doing project work, the fuel modification, the hazard reduction, getting all of that ready. My biggest fear as we go forward that there be no grant funding available for these type of programs, and we don't know what's going to happen this summer. If there's a significant fire season, there could be funding available. So it's a situation that we're on top of. We're protecting our communities. We're staffing our resources so we can respond to emergencies.
Thank you, Chief. Was there ever a moment that you as the chief or we as the board were not fully committed to providing a robust, complete set of hand crews for the summer?
Your board has been very supportive of the Kern County Fire Department. We placed 80 to 90 seasonal fire positions in position control. That's how we hire. That was done by the CAO's office. So all of the positions are in there. We've been hiring, getting the people in. So my commitment is to protect our communities with everything that we have available.
Including hand crews. Thank you. Okay, then the recommended action is for us to approve the chief's report and authorize the auditor controller to process the specified adjustments in our budget to accommodate this $11,950,000.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you very much. That concludes our morning's agenda. We have some items to take up in closed session, and then we will return here at 2 o'clock this afternoon for our next open session. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to adjourn to closed session?
So moved.
Thank you. Without objection, so ordered.